2.5 generations have passed since he's passed. So how is his name cemented in stone as one of the best rappers to ever grab a microphone? It takes unprecedented skill, passion, creativity, work ethic, and a risk to rise to the top of this competitive field and go down as one of the best in history. In this iHeartRadio exclusive, we'll unpack what makes the Notorious B.I.G. the illest. Live from Bedford-Stuyvesant, the livest one, representing BK to the fullest. Christopher Wallace, aka the Notorious B.I.G, was born May 21st, 1972. Growing up in a single-parent household, Chris was exposed to hip-hop among other things while growing up in Brooklyn, New York. He was a standout student in school and excelled in English, and it was on the playground where he'd get the nickname Big due to his weight. He found his voice as an MC in school, along with some other rappers you may have heard of like DMX, Busta Rhymes, Jay Z. But the lure of the streets would take its effect on Biggie as he navigated through adolescence. There were two types of people in Brooklyn, dealers and users. Biggie decided who he was going to be at an early age. As a matter of fact, he was out on the corner hustling at 12 years old. In an interview with Interview magazine, Biggie said, "I knew dudes was getting money, and I knew they were selling drugs. I knew they was fly as hell. They had $150 Bally's on, and bubble gooses and sheepskin, and I was like, oh these dudes just doing it." The hustlers on the corner were my role models. While initially trying to balance school and the corner, it wasn't long before the scale tipped towards hustling full-time, no pun intended. Big dropped out of high school at 17 and caught his first charge in that same year. He landed himself in jail for 9 months before making bail in 1990, and he was looking for a change. Maybe it was time to take this rapper thing for real. Following his release from jail, Big started recording demos as an attempt to get his life on track. By the grace of God, the tape landed in the hands of Big Daddy Kane's DJ, who consequently got it into the editor's hands at the Source magazine, in the March edition of the magazine, coincidentally enough. Biggie was featured in the unsigned hype section. Now, at the time, the Source magazine was one of the most reputable brands within the culture. If it made the Source, it made a difference. Big recalled how this all came together. Well, me and my DJ, 50 Grand, used to make tapes in the basement when we drink and get high. He let Mr. C, Big Daddy Kane's DJ, hear it, and from there, Mr. C, it went to the Source magazine for an album featuring unsigned hype. Then the guy that organized that, Matty C, saw Puff and asked him if he had some hard and Matt let him hear my and it all happened from there. At the time, Sean Puff Daddy Combs was an A&R for Uptown Records, responsible for acts like Mary J. Blige, Jodeci, and now the Notorious B.I.G. And he was now officially the Notorious B.I.G. on paper as the moniker Biggie Smalls was taken. 93 was in fact a big year for Big. He appeared on the remix of Mary J. Blige's Real Love and What's the 411. He also dropped his first song, Party and Bullsh, in 93, which made the soundtrack for Who's the Man. And the rest is history, right? Well, not exactly. Puff was actually fired from Uptown Records not too long after signing Big for insubordination. 1 week later, he started Bad Boy Records, and Biggie had a decision to make. Stay with Uptown, which had a history of success, or take the leap of faith, roll the dice, and roll with Puff. Assuming you've heard the music, seen the videos, watched the movies, you know how that part of the story goes. The Notorious B.I.G. was now the second act signed to Puff Daddy's Bad Boy Records. As 94 rolled in, the momentum for Big kept getting bigger. He kicked the first verse on the remix of label mate Craig Mack's Flavor in Your Ear, alongside industry heavyweights LL Cool J and Busta Rhymes. If there was a coming out party in Biggie's career, I'd have to say this was it, and it seemed to have an effect on all elements of his life. Not only was he focused and ready to make his debut, he had a baby girl named Tiana, and he was now married to fellow Bad Boy recording artist Faith Evans. Big's debut album, Ready to Die, was released September 13th, 94. It featured hits like Big Papa, One More Chance, and Juicy, giving him his first #1 on Billboard, his first platinum record, and his first Grammy nomination. By the end of the year, Big was the top-selling male artist on the pop and R&B charts. And with milestones like this being achieved, it didn't exactly move the Notorious B.I.G. He said, "That's nothing to me. I mean, when Puff tells me he's selling this amount of records, I'm like, is that good? All I know is gold and platinum, and I want to be platinum. I'm just trying to blow up. I figure if this blows up, a lot of other dudes are gonna come right behind me and scoop it up more, and that just brings us all up." With the success of Ready to Die, Biggie was in the studio working on his sophomore effort, Life After Death. While working on this project, Big was actually in a car accident that temporarily took him out of commission. He shattered his left leg and was confined to a wheelchair before having to rehab and use a cane. If you ever wondered why Big started to use a cane in his aesthetic around this time, now you know. While taking time for self-reflection, he told the LA Times, "I was in the hospital for 2 and 3 months, and it gave me a lot of time to think about my life and where it was headed. I said to myself, Big, you're moving too fast. When you get back on your feet, it's time for this to change." Life After Death was completed as a double disc. It featured records like Sky's the Limit, More Money, More Problems, and Hypnotize. The first single, Hypnotize, was released March 1st, 97. The album was slated to be released on March 25th, and the Notorious B.I.G. was taken from us on March 9th. It's been 24 years since the death of the Notorious B.I.G., and if you're even vaguely familiar with the story, then you know I've omitted the part that I feel is covered too often. I'm not here to discuss the East versus the West and everything that followed. It's March 9th. We're here to celebrate the life of the Notorious B.I.G. We're here to celebrate the fact that to many, he's the greatest rapper ever. We're here to celebrate the fact that 24 years later, his music is still here. We're here to celebrate the fact that he's done so much for the art form and the culture in just 2 albums. Director Emmett Malloy just released a great doc entitled Biggie, I Got a Story to Tell, and I highly recommend it. His mother, grandmother, uncle, best friends, they all paint this picture that make you wish you were around and knew the Notorious B.I.G. I remember the first time I heard Hypnotize. It sent goosebumps up my arm and down my spine, and it does till this day. I've been listening to my favorite Biggie records in preparation for this feature and for March 9th. And we've done something special for you too. DJ Starting From Scratch and DJ Grouch have created an all-exclusive Notorious B.I.G. mix, which is available on the iHeartRadio app. If you're unfamiliar, take a listen to who everyone regards as one of the best to ever do it. If you are familiar, enjoy the nostalgia and remember why Biggie, Biggie, Biggie Smalls is the illest.